Hello and happy Virgo season. Today we're going to be mixing together Lunar Tides in the color Amethyst and Coral. So to start, these are human hair swatches, but the only one that is virgin hair is the number 4 black swatch. The rest have been bleached or chemically colored in their existence. They are labeled 1 through 12, but that is not corresponding to hair levels. I do pictures and clips near the end of the video, so the numbers just help us keep track of each swatch. Number 1 is green. Both of these colors are on the lighter side, so I wanted to see how well the mix would cover green. 2 is gray, 3 is a natural red, 4 again is black. And then we have a range from 4 to 11 that goes up to a platinum blonde. And then number 12 is like a toned version of number 11. With my zodiac mixes, I like to do 2 separate ratios on the top and bottom of each swatch, just to show you the range that you can get out of our mixture. So for our top mix, it's going to lean a little bit more purple, and it's going to be a 1 to 2 ratio, so 1 part of coral to 2 parts amethyst. Virgo season is roughly between August 21st and September 21st. That date does change a little bit each year. So if you're kind of born around either of those dates and you're not sure if you're a Virgo, if you have your birth time, you can go on a website like astro.com and get a birth chart or natal chart. It's the same thing. And that'll tell you what your sun sign is. That can be relatively important because astrology relies on the degrees. So as soon as the sun is 1 degree in a sign, that dictates what your sun sign is, essentially. So for example, this year, 2021, I believe Virgo starts on the 22nd of August around 4:35 p.m. Central Standard Time, which is my time zone. So if you were born, say, noon, August 22nd, Central Standard Time, you would technically still be a Leo. And that means 2 people can be born on the same day, but be different signs. How cool is that? So for our second mixture, it's going to be a little bit closer to what I was imagining for this mix. And it's going to be a 1 to 1, so equal parts of coral and amethyst. So Virgo is an earth sign ruled by Mercury. As you can see, I am not doing earthy colors or Mercury colors. So essentially, I'm kind of breaking my own rules with this one. In the Gemini video, we discussed how Mercury is associated with the colors yellow and green. Earth colors are, browns, earthy colors, so greens included. So technically, with that overlap, I should be doing a green, but I feel like I've done so many greens already, so I decided to take a different approach with this. Virgo is also represented by the maiden, which oftentimes is associated with the idea of purity. So I did a little bit more research, and I learned that Virgo is associated with the Greek goddess, hopefully I say this correctly, Astraea, who is also associated with purity. So instead of going for the green, I thought I'd go for more of an ethereal color that kind of reminds me of when I picture a Greek goddess associated with purity, the colors that I would see around that. So I don't know if this is just a me thing, because I do have synesthesia where I can associate, if I hear a word, I can see a color. So when I think of Astraea, I see colors like this. But I'm pretty sure I've seen Virgo kind of represented by muted pinks before, so I don't think I'm too far off, and hopefully I don't disappoint any Virgos out there. So I'm going to let these sit for about 3 hours. I will then rinse them out, and when they're dry, of course, we will come back and we'll do some comparisons. I don't know why I'm so nervous about this video. I think because Virgo isn't always associated with pinks, but realistically, it doesn't matter, and maybe some of you just want to see what these two mixed together look like, so I don't know why. Internally, I'm freaking out a little bit. So one was green. You know, it almost kind of neutralized the color out. Like if I look at this chunk here or this chunk here, it doesn't look super green, but I can't really describe what it looks like because it still does have a slight green undertone. I think there's like a smoky quality to it. But if you're using a mix like this to neutralize your hair, I would recommend having your hair probably a little bit lighter first. I really love how this turned out on the gray swatch. As usual, it's a little bit more cool toned than the blonder swatches, but honestly, it's not that far off. And even the bottom with the more warmth that all the other swatches have, it does stay pretty warm on the gray swatch as well. Number 3, you can't see a huge difference between the top and the bottom, and it still looks pretty natural red, but both the top and the bottom have a slight bit more pink look to it. I would recommend probably just using coral by itself and maybe diluting it instead of a whole mix if you are going to use it over natural red hair. So I don't see a difference on number 4 or 5. There might be a slight difference with 5. It can be hard to tell, but realistically it doesn't really look pink at all. Kind of same for number 6. It might be a little bit warmer when we go look at the before and afters, but it's really still like a medium brown. Strangely, I feel like the number 7 took better than the number 8. And I wonder if that's either A, the person's hair who number 8 was maybe just doesn't take dye that well, or B, I'm wondering if the tone of the number 8 was just too similar to the tone of the mixture, and that's why it didn't take very well. 10 and 11 actually don't look too far off from each other, so I would say those two probably look the best. 9 looks pretty too, but in a different way. Both the top and the bottom look a little bit darker and a little bit more muted over the number 9 swatch. And then I actually really like it on number 12 too. I feel like the toned hair underneath does make it look a little bit more like it has some depth to it, and it does lean a little bit more cool toned than the 11, but really not that much different. I feel like there's a bigger difference on the top part. So not too long ago, I noticed that Lunar Tides did a swatch of Petal Pink on their Instagram, and their Petal Pink turned out way more pigmented than mine did, and even some of the people commenting were saying that their Petal Pink was super pastel. Because originally my thought was I would compare this to Petal Pink, but my Petal Pink looks nothing like this. So I don't know, I might buy Petal Pink again and see if it looks any different. Because in the comments, Lunar Tides was telling people that it should not be that pastel. It should look closer to what they posted on their Instagram. So there's no point in me probably comparing that, my Petal Pink, but of course I will compare this to Coral since Coral is actually in this mix anyways. This is comparable to number 12, number 11, and number 10. So the Amethyst is definitely a lot more pastel than the Coral, so mixing the two together definitely gives you a much more pastel dye. And you can see just how much the Amethyst mixed with this Coral color really just cools it down and almost makes it a little muted. I'm personally a sucker for very muted colors, so this mix really calls to me. And if Coral is definitely too bright for you, because that's quite different. You can obviously either pastel it down with some diluter or you can add some amethyst to it. Now, I have to say, I get pretty excited when my mixes don't look like anything that I have, and that is the truth or the reality for this mix. I have a lot of colors that could be similar, but nothing that's quite as muted as either the top or the bottom. For example, this is Smoky Mauve from Lunar Tides. I'm gonna put it upside down, but this is comparable to number 11. So Smoky Mauve is kind of like a muted purple with a little bit of pink in it. So the smoky ones are not super bright, but as you can see, even when this is diluted, it's definitely a lot more cooler tone than this top mix here. And then my other like pastel pink dyes are definitely all way too bright, but this is Arctic Fox in Frose, comparable to number 11. And you can see it's almost, at least in this angle that I'm looking at, Frose almost looks neon. It doesn't always look like that in most lightings. Even if you drag it down, it's just super bright. So this mix is just not in your face. It's very toned down, muted, which is to me a very Virgo thing. And what I mean by that is it's kind of natural, but obviously like not neutral. Hopefully that makes sense. So now I'd like to get into the before and after clips. Those, as well as anything after this point, will all be done in natural lighting. I do have to do the before and afters on different days, and so the lighting can be quite different on different days due to the weather. So if anything looks slightly off from the before and after clips, that is why. I do hope this video helped, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have a request, I do have a link below to a Google form you can fill out, but just keep in mind I only do dyes that do not test on animals. Thank you so much to my patrons, and thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.